Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Just before this video starts, I wanted to let you know that the video you're about to see is actually taken from my full online guide to how to use Garageband. So if you're at all interested in that, make sure you stay until the end of the video and I'll tell you about how you can get it. Thanks. So MIDI is basically a way of triggering a virtual instrument. So in Garageband, there's lots of different virtual instruments that we can trigger using MIDI. So we've got drums, basses, strings, keyboards, just about anything you could think of, there's a virtual instrument for. So we have a couple ways of triggering MIDI. The first, and my favourite way, is using a Midi keyboard to trigger those sounds. But we can also get up a virtual Midi keyboard in Garageband. So if we come up here to Window and click on Show Musical Typing, it's going to bring up this virtual Midi keyboard. So let's click Classic Electric Piano, and then we could use the keys on our laptop to play the instrument. So you see how they grayed out with the ones I'm pressing down. So this is a way of inputting MIDI if you'd like to. So you've got the sustain button here. On tab, you can select your octave, or we can move this blue bar up and down the keyboard to select the octave that way. Cool. So one of the things that I don't particularly like about using this method is the velocity. When you're playing on a MIDI keyboard, it senses how hard you're pushing down the keys. So there's more of a dynamic there, and you don't get that playing through the laptop keyboard. However, you can adjust the velocity using these buttons, so your C and your V, and that will play it quieter or louder depending on the sound. You can also use this pitch bend and modulation. So this is going to just change it ever so slightly. So when we thought about what MIDI instrument we want to put in, we just go to this plus button, we're going to click Software Instrument, let's click Create, and then it's going to bring us back over to the library where we can select what kind of instrument we want. I'm personally going to start off with a drum kit, but you can start wherever you'd like. If you'd like to start with the bass part, or if you'd like to start with the piano part, you do that. I quite like working from a drum part first. I feel like that gives it a lot of rhythm and direction, so I'm going to start there. I think I'm going to pick an electric drum kit, and 808 seems to be like really popular now, so I think I'm going to give that a go today. So I'm quickly going to find the kick and the snare. Cool, there. So there's two different snare sounds there. So once you found a sound you're happy with and you're ready to record, you just want to come up here, click this record button, and it's going to count us in. Okay, so we've got our kick and our snare there, but I would quite like to add some hi-hats on. Now what you can do with MIDI is even after we've recorded, you can then record over the top and it will just add on top. With this drum kit, for example, you can make tons of different sounds all together using the same MIDI file. But for now, I'm just going to add some hi-hats on top. So there's my hi-hat. So just like before, we're going to select our drum kit, hit record. Cool, so that's just about right. So don't worry if your MIDI recording isn't absolutely perfect. We can do a couple things a little bit later on to put it in time and just make it sound really tight. Cool, okay, so I'm happy with that drum track. So now I'm thinking that I'd quite like to add some bass over the top. So I'm just going to select Software Instrument again, create a new track, and let's go to bass. So these are more the traditional basses. So make sure you look through this library because there's so many cool sounds and it could be really inspiring to just have a good play around with some of the instruments that are on here. Nice, okay, so I quite like the sound. I quite like the sound of that, so let's go with that. So again, I'm just going to select the synth E-bass, I'm going to hit record, and let's put something over the top. And it could be as simple as that. So I think I want to add like an octave to that. So I'm going to play that on the octave above. Hit record. And I don't know how I feel about that. So that idea is okay, but I want to change it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this edit tool, and it's going to bring up this MIDI editor, which is really, really great. I'm going to get rid of library, so I've got a bit more space, and I'm going to pull this up so I can see the MIDI editor a bit clearer. So what you can do here is we can adjust the MIDI notes even after we've played them. Because this is all software based, we can alter it and change it even though we haven't played it. The other way of inputting MIDI that I was talking about earlier is using the pen tool. So if we press down Command, you can see that it brings up this pen icon. You see that? So what we can do with this is actually input the notes manually. And you can see the keyboard there for a reference. What we can do with these MIDI notes is shorten them or lengthen them. We can move them around, so if we want to change where that MIDI note is. And what we can also do is change the velocity. So a little bit like I was saying earlier, that dynamic and feel of the instrument we can change. So if I wanted to make this note softer, I'd select it and I'd go down to velocity and I'd just turn it down. Equally, I can bring the velocity up and make it heavier. And what we can do is transpose. So using this tool down here, we can bring the pitch of the notes up. Oh man, I'm making a mess of this. So what we can also do is highlight a couple notes at a time, and then we can shorten them all together or move them round together. So I'm just going to delete these for now, and I'm going to change what I've already played. So I think I want to make the bass parts kind of like almost harmonise with each other. Right, okay, so I'm going to slightly adjust the velocity of these. Oh, I like that, that sounds cool. So you notice this note comes in ever so slightly early, so I'm just going to cut that off a little bit. So another really powerful tool we have in Garageband is the quantize tool. So basically what the quantize tool is going to do is it's going to drag the notes in time. So the bass part is pretty in time now, but if we go up to the drums, I think there's some changing we could do. So they're more or less in time, but because we're using an electric drum kit, I kind of want it to sound like it's a drum machine, like it's almost like robotic. So I'm going to select this region button, and I'm going to use the quantize tool, which is here. So it's going to ask you what the nearest note you want it to be dragged to. So if you're writing in triplets, you can do that. I think most people are going to use the quantize notes here, but you can use these down here if you want a bit of swing to the quantize, so it's not as perfect. So just have a play around with the quantize tool. I'm not going to get too into like the maths of notes and beats, but most of the time you'll find it works best within 1/4, 1/8 or 1/16. So I'm just going to go for 1/8. And now you may have not seen that, but what the quantize tool just did there is it shifted all the notes into the right place. So it should sound like this. Yeah, how great is that? So although the quantize tool is so handy and really, really powerful at making our tracks sound really tight and really together, it does remove that human element. So if you're trying to make a song that has that human feeling to it and something that's not quite perfect, you can use this strength tool to select how hard you want the quantizer to work. So if you watch, I'm going to zoom in, and as we adjust the strength, those notes are going to go slightly back at a time, and the more we drag the strength up, it's going to make them more perfect. Now, because I'm using like an electronic drum kit, I kind of want it to sound like a robot. I almost want it to sound like an old school drum machine that is by nature perfect, but it's totally depending on what kind of sound that you want. But just keep in mind, if you're always using the quantized strength at 100, it is going to sound a little bit robotic. What we can also do with the quantize tool is sometimes just select the notes we want to be quantized, and you can see it pops up there. So we can just quantize a couple notes at a time if you'd like. So yeah, get experimenting, get playing around, and see what you can come up with. And I'll see you on the next class. Okay, so I hope that video was helpful for you guys. If you're at all interested in learning a little bit more about how to use Garageband, I now have a full beginner's guide on how to use the program, which you can find in the links in the description. In the course, we cover everything from the anatomy of the program, how to record guitars, basses, vocals, how to mix, master, edit, things like EQ, compression, reverb, effects. All of that is covered in the course. The course is available either by Skillshare or Udemy. On Skillshare, you pay a small monthly fee and you get access to thousands of amazing courses. If you use the link in the description, you can actually get 2 free weeks on Skillshare, which is plenty of time to watch my course and several others if you'd like to. I actually learned how to edit and produce videos from Ali Abdaal's Final Cut Pro course, which is so good. I highly recommend you checking that out if you're interested. Also, my close friend Mark Barnacle has just released an amazing beginner's guide to guitar. Definitely check that out if you're interested in that too. The course is currently the second most popular Garageband course on Skillshare with a ton of positive reviews. I'm just saying. Or you can get the course on Udemy, where you pay a one-off fee and you get access to the course indefinitely. If you click the link in the description, you can actually get access to the course for the discounted price of only $12.99, which is a goddamn bargain. Okay, thank you so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you soon.